Socialism, Utopian Visions versus Practical Realities. The word socialism, once simple in its meaning, has come to be mired in confusion, both by those who praise it and those who fear it. In the modern age, it seems the term has been subjected to the whims of those who define it based on utopian ideals, but lack a clear understanding of the processes and realities needed to achieve such lofty ends. This essay shall explore the confusion surrounding socialism, revealing the folly in attempting to define it based on dreams alone, and will propose a more practical, constitutional interpretation of socialism that aligns with the freedoms and responsibilities outlined in the governance of these United States. Let us first examine the rhetoric oft heard from two perspectives on the left, each revealing a different interpretation of socialism. A comrade on the left recently shared their view of socialism thusly: stateless, classless, moneyless society, fully automated and offering superabundance, affording time, energy to all, freedom to self-direct individual life activity, a mass aristocracy. In this vision, society is described in idealized terms, a utopia free from the burdens of class struggle, where all are liberated to pursue personal activities without the constraints of toil. It speaks of automation and abundance, but it lacks any concrete explanation as to how such a world might be achieved. There is no roadmap provided, only the dream of a future that is free from hierarchy, money, and government. A second interlocutor shared an equally nebulous thought. That's a long, complex working out, but certainly I think it involves notions of equality, of agency, of distribution, etc. Certainly it goes against most of the things that we see in global north. This too expresses vague ideas of equality and opposition to the status quo, but is short on detail, plan, or tangible process. The perspectives of utopian socialism, as examined in the perspectives above, are best understood through the lens of a new term, wit quosed, wallowing in the quagmire of self-delusion. This word captures the essence of these idealistic but misguided interpretations, which are caught up in fanciful visions of the future without a solid foundation in reality. The proponents of such views speak grandly of a stateless, classless, moneyless society, where automation creates superabundance, yet they offer no coherent process for how to achieve such a dream. Instead, they remain wit-quosed, suspended in a quagmire of self-delusion, envisioning a world that ignores the complexities of human nature, economic scarcity, and governance. The folly of utopian socialism in these cases is that it imagines the destination, a world of freedom, equality, and abundance, while ignoring the journey. The advocates of such views are wit-quosed because they are trapped in populist fantasies where they receive all the benefits, while someone else does all the work, unable to acknowledge the real challenges that stand in the way of their utopia. To speak of socialism as a stateless and moneyless society is to ignore the very nature of human economies and governance. It speaks to a desire for abundance without recognizing the reality that resources are finite, and the management of those resources requires careful and deliberate planning, administration, and the rule of law. Moreover, a society without class or hierarchy is a contradiction to human experience, for even in the most egalitarian of systems, certain individuals will inevitably assume leadership or organizational roles by virtue of ability or necessity. Utopian definitions of socialism assume a world without conflict, where the goods of society flow freely and without resistance. Yet history teaches us that competition for resources, differences in ability, and the varying desires of individuals make such harmony impossible without some form of structured governance. To propose that such a society can exist without careful thought, without hard work, without economic structures, is to abandon reason and to invite chaos. In contrast to these speculative fantasies, we might return to a more pragmatic interpretation of socialism, one informed by the principles of constitutional government. Indeed, The United States Constitution offers a framework that, while ostensibly capitalist, could accommodate elements of socialism when applied at the state and local levels. Such a definition of socialism does not call for the abolition of the state or the elimination of property, but rather the empowerment of local governance to pursue policies that best serve their populations. In the words of James Madison, "The powers delegated by the proposed constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those which are to remain in the state governments are numerous and indefinite. The former will be exercised principally on external objects, as war, peace, negotiation, and foreign commerce. The powers reserved to the several states will extend to all the objects which in the ordinary course of affairs concern the lives and liberties and properties of the people and the internal order, improvement and prosperity of the state." This principle suggests that state governments, rather than the federal government, should retain authority over the ordinary course of affairs, including matters of economic organization and social welfare. In this light, a pro-constitutional socialism could exist, whereby local governments experiment with social programs, public ownership of certain resources, and community-based decision-making, without infringing upon the rights of individuals or the structural integrity of the nation. Here, we find a blueprint for an understanding of socialism not as centralized federal authority, but as a decentralized process of state and local governance. In the American tradition, socialism can be understood as the shared responsibility of communities to ensure the well-being of their members through policies that address education, infrastructure, health, and welfare, but in a manner that remains respectful of individual liberties and local autonomy. In conclusion, the confusion surrounding the word socialism arises from a failure to ground utopian visions in the realities of governance, law, and economics. While some on the left may dream of a stateless, moneyless society, such visions fail to provide the necessary processes and structures that would make such a world possible. Instead, we ought to look to the Constitution and the principles of local governance as a means to implement socialist policies that respect liberty, promote prosperity, and ensure the well-being of all citizens. Socialism, in its practical form, need not mean centralized power or utopian fantasies. Rather, it can take the shape of community-driven efforts that seek to improve the lives of individuals while respecting the freedoms enshrined in our founding documents. In this way, we can reconcile the principles of socialism with the enduring values of liberty, self-determination, and local governance.